also being joined by the Deputy Director of Protocol, Head Office, Mr. Kwabena Frimpong. We also have the Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party in the person of Dr. Antoinette Tibu Dako. Then we have the Deputy IT Director, Stephen Forsen, also here with us, myself, George Krobia Santi, Deputy National Communication Director, and then my senior colleague, Dr. Asiedu Kukru, also Deputy National Communication Director, who double as the Dean of the Communication Directorate of the party. Without much ado, once again, you are welcome to the headquarters of the New Patriotic Party. Our Communications Director this afternoon will be engaging you on some critical and pressing national issues. At this juncture, I humbly invite to the podium Dr. Richard Anyaba to take over. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the headquarters of the New Patriotic Party. We called you today to address some troubling matters to do with the actions and inactions of the John Dramani Mahama administration that threatens the democratic rights and contribute to the grave worsening of the fight against Galamsey in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2024 general election was a pivotal election because a lot was at stake. There was the need to sustain the economic recovery that began in 2023, to eliminate the worsening or the state of Galamsey in our country, to improve infrastructure and create more jobs for our young people. It was a difficult fight that Ghanaians faced, and while we, the New Patriotic Party, was hopeful to win that election, given the programs and policies in our manifestos, we lost the election to the National Democratic Congress, led by John Dramani Mahama, who at the time we warned that did not have a clear-cut plan to tackle the challenges confronting us. 3 months into the presidency of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, Ghana faces a regressive resetting agenda that we must all stand together to fight in the interest of protecting our environment and the rights of our people in this country. In essence, to save our democracy against the grave incursions on the rights of our citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have observed so far from the NDC government is a regression in civil rights and human rights of citizens, and the efforts to fight illegal mining worsening as the NDC members, emboldened by the subtle promises of the campaign, that's the NDC campaign, emboldened and are now going out and raping our forest cover with impunity. Ladies and gentlemen, holding people accountable, that is, former government appointees and officials accountable, is an ingrained value, is an ingrained system, or is an ingrained value of the New Patriotic Party. We believe in holding public servants or people who have been appointed to take public office accountable. That commitment led us to the establishment of the Special Prosecutor's Office and increased funding for the Auditor General whilst we're in office to increase their efficiency and effectiveness. In other words, we believe in accountability. Therefore, we are not averse to the fight or genuine efforts aimed at holding people accountable, and including members of our government accountable for their service. However, we are concerned about the evident violation of citizens' democratic rights and the clear strategy of the John Dramani Mahama administration to try individuals accused of potential acts of corruption in the media rather than in the courtrooms. This is not prosecution, it is persecution. Ladies and gentlemen, the government is not interested. The John Dramani Mahama government is not interested in prosecuting corruption, but one of its landmark decisions since coming into office was by the Attorney General issuing nolle prosequi to clear all NDC members standing trial. And I'm sure all of you are aware of this. They cleared every single member of the John Dramani Mahama former administration, cleared them of all wrongdoings, and they walked free. This is no evidence. This shows clearly that the government is not committed to fighting corruption. That was the first action they have taken, and this was designed and actually directed by the president himself with a clear plan to clear the path for them to target the New Patriotic Party, their political opponents. Article 19 of the 1992 Constitution guarantees the right to fair trial, including the presumption of innocence until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. The Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, an accomplished lawyer, is aware of this provision but have chosen to disregard it and instead engage in a media trial, presenting untested evidence to create an impression of guilt in the minds of the public about people this government accused of having engaged in acts of corruption. This is an irregular act. This is not how the fight against corruption has been carried on as far as this Fourth Republic is concerned. Many of you are aware that the Akufo-Addo administration prosecuted some of the NDC people and jailed them. But those actions leading to their persecution and holding them accountable was not a media activity. And some of those persecutions, people criticized us and as though that we were not doing anything. It was only because those actions that needed to be taken to hold people accountable was taking place in the courtroom rather than in the media. And we expect this government to do so, and we are willing to support them in every way possible to undertake the prosecution of corruption according to law in the courtrooms, not in the media. But what we have seen so far from them is a deliberate act of inciting the public and trying to incite public sentiment against the New Patriotic Party by creating these media events to talk about people's guilt, to talk about evidence, rather than taking those evidence to court. And this is one of the key things we think that we need to bring to your attention, because it is a deliberate act that a government is undertaking because it feels that perhaps it didn't have enough evidence, or the evidence it has against these individuals that it claims have conducted acts of corruption, that either the evidence they know cannot stand the test of scrutiny in the courtroom, or they simply are engaged in a political persecution to vilify individuals and create disaffection for the New Patriotic Party. And so the question we ask, ladies and gentlemen, is why the Attorney General is not going to court, but rather going to the media. Why is that? Ladies and gentlemen, the answer to these questions are one of two possibilities. It is either the Attorney General lacks confidence in the supposed evidence he has to withstand the rigor of trial in the courtroom, or that the media trial is part of the government's grand agenda to defame its political opponent, being the New Patriotic Party. And I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that it is the latter. That it is the latter. perhaps both, that the National Democratic Congress, the John Dramani Mahama administration is engaged in a plot, one, to defame the New Patriotic Party because he knows that the evidence he has cannot stand the test of any scrutiny in the courtroom, and so it results to a media campaign to create disaffection for the New Patriotic Party. And we believe that is evidence of his lack of commitment to the fight to reduce corruption in his government and also to hold former government appointees accountable.
All right.
As I indicated earlier, the government is not interested in combating corruption, but in persecuting and sowing seeds of disaffection against the New Patriotic Party. This is why the government has positioned persons like Richard Jakpa and others in key positions within the national security apparatus to use all means necessary to intimidate, to harass, and humiliate Ghanaians with impunity. Ladies and gentlemen, that would not wash. That attempt would not wash.
Never.
Because Ghanaians will judge this government based on its performance and not how well it has defamed its political competitor, and in the process undermine the rights and liberties of Ghanaians. The performance of this government so far has been disappointing given the 2025 budget and the significant deterioration in the fight against illegal mining Galamsey. Let's talk briefly about the 2025 budget. The 2025 budget is disappointing, and I'm sure all of you will agree, despite the generous contributions they enjoyed from the National Economic Dialogue. President Mahama campaigned to establish a 24-hour economy. And all of you are aware, we stood here many times to tell you that was a scam, but somehow it fell through the cracks and then we voted for them. Today, with the evidence from the 2025 budget, you will agree with me that it's indeed a scam in the making. The 2025 budget, as you will agree, made no provisions for the implementation of the 24-hour economy. The only comment we hear about it is that sometime along the line, the finance minister will bring a policy proposal to Parliament for consideration about the 24-hour economy. There is no allocation in the budget for it. The government's priorities in the 2025 budget clashed with the expectations of Ghanaians, which is evident in the funding allocations for the programs in the budget designed to impact lives. It is unusual for a government that has won election on the promise of jobs and economic growth to allocate significantly lesser resources to support development in the real sector of the economy. The government has earmarked a whopping 2.711 billion for compensation at the Jubilee House, exceeding the allocations made combined for the following programs, shall I say flagship programs for the government. One, the Agriculture for Economic Transformation. A total of 1.5 billion was allocated for that program. The National Apprenticeship Program, a total of 300 million allocated. The National Coders Corps, this is supposed to take care of some 1 million Ghanaians. A total of 100 million was allocated. You've heard about the Jumera program. A total of 100 million is what they allocated. And a few women amongst us this afternoon. The Women's Development Bank, a measly 51.3 million is what they allocated. All this put together is less than what the president allocated for his office, for the compensation compensation. I'm not talking about anything else. There are many things that they have allocated for the Office of Government Machinery. But this is just for compensation of a handful of people at the Jubilee House. 2.7 billion. More than what they have allocated combined for these flagship programs that they said they were going to do. So from here, you can see that the government's priority is not the good people of our country, who they canvassed, whose votes they have obtained, on the back of a promise that they are coming to create a certain Ghana with a certain program of resetting to a better place. But then now we see clearly that they are resetting us backwards, and we all have to try and fight to resist that. It is not done yet. I have seen some efforts across the society, women especially, who are intent on fighting back to see that these promises, especially the promise on the Women's Development Bank, is realized. But I can tell you that with this allocation, there's very little that you can hope for. So ladies and gentlemen, how can this be, as I indicated earlier, with this allocation and the promise they made to us? There's a clear mismatch in terms of the commitment to deliver on these promises. The budgeted amount for compensating a small group of people, as I indicated, who are working around the president, is higher than the allocation made to impact the lives of millions of young people and Ghanaians at large. Many have criticized this misplaced priority in the 2025 budget. The Chief Executive of Agri-Impact, Mr. Daniel Fahine Akwe, a significant stakeholder whose view from his criticism suggests to me that he was not consulted, his views were not sought, even though the government is going on a spree, creating the impression that they are a very consulting government. But a stakeholder such as this has not been consulted. And he has come out to criticize the allocation for the agricultural sector as insufficient. Others, including the AGI, have also criticized this budget. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that the budget is at variance with the expectation of the people of Ghana. The Women's Bank, as I said, also suffer another faith where the entire allocation for it is less than what has been allocated to the Lone Ranger Office, the Office of Government Communication, that sees a whopping 78 million Ghana cedis compared to the 51 million allocated for the creation of the Women's Bank to affect the lives of millions of women in our country. One potentially positive aspect of the 2025 budget, I must say, is the elimination or the removal of the 10% betting tax and the e-levy. By the way, something that we had scheduled to repeal if we had won the election. So if we take that out, the balance of the 2025 budget has very little to offer in terms of the expectations of our people. I tell you that dissatisfaction with the 2025 budget is widespread. And so it's not a thing that you will say that it's a new patriotic party that is opposed to it or is not happy with it, but it is widespread. And as I've indicated, in the days ahead, we'll be engaging in conversations to do with the budget, and we are sure that Ghanaians will get to understand that indeed we have made the wrong choice in selecting the NDC and not the NPP. But for now, let me turn my attention briefly to the fight against Galamsey. The fight against Galamsey has significantly deteriorated. Just before the election, you heard calls in civil society, championed also by the National Democratic Congress. The president now have been seen on platforms saying that Ghanaians voted for us, and so therefore we must resolve the problem of Galamsey. Some have called around that time for a state of emergency to be declared. And the NDC participated in that conversation and created the impression that we were not willing to do much about the fight to curb Galamsey. But today, you will agree, as I tell you, that this government lacked the commitment to fight Galamsey. And what exacerbation we're seeing in Galamsey around the country is as a result of the lack of commitment of the John Dramani Mahama administration. Today, our forests are populated with recruited militants from Ivory Coast and other regions to protect Galamseyers who, according to media reports, are NDC members. Yes. Currently, mining has devastated 44 out of the 288 forest reserves in our country. At this rate, we risk losing all our forest cover to Galamsey. A situation when you ponder should cause a shiver in your spine, because you have seen recently operatives and party members of the NDC actively preventing task force or security forces detailed to fight corruption and protect our forest cover. The NDC, ladies and gentlemen, is complicit in the astronomical growth in illegal mining in our country because they campaigned actively in Galamsey areas with coded promise, which translate to mean that we will allow the boys to Galamsey simply by looking aside and pretending to be doing something about fighting Galamsey. So in other words, the NDC is talking more about Galamsey, is talking more about the fight to curb Galamsey than actually doing anything to fight it. With the NDC government in power now, these members and supporters whose votes they canvassed, and as events have turned out that they have obtained, have come back to take their pound of flesh. That's why you see the devastation around. That's why you have seen a renewed vigor amongst the Galamseyers out there with militants to protect them. And the government cannot do anything about it besides talk. You heard recently they commissioned some blue water guards, which blue water guards are not primary fighters. They are complementary to the fight, but then they are presenting them as their key proposition to fight Galamsey. And the individuals you see do not exude that confidence or have the stature or the readiness to be able to combat or engage any Galamseyer or Galamseyers who are wielding guns and machetes with the people we saw in the video who they have trained to be the blue water guards. And as I indicated recently, this blue water guard situation is not new. We have the river wardens trained and deployed somewhere in 2022, 2023. And so it's not a new thing they are doing. It is not the panacea to resolving the Galamsey situation. It's complementary, and the NDC is merely just talking about it. The real work they must do today is to be able to get security people to go out there and tell their party people to stand down. And all the people they have promised that they will allow to Galamsey to stand down so that our rivers and our forest can be saved from the ravages of their acts. As we speak, ladies and gentlemen, The Ofin Shelter Belt Forest Reserve is infested with galamseyers who recently attacked and injured Forestry Commission Rapid Response Team members. In the Brim North District, several forests have been overtaken, namely the Chenchemso and the Jari Forest in Equiansi. This was just days ago, about 2 days ago. We've had these activities recorded. Additionally, the Tano Enua Forest in Awin, the Asenyano Forest River, and the Jimra Forest Reserve in Kawiya District have also been taken over by galamseyers. Ladies and gentlemen, the lists of our forests that are being raped by these NDC galamseyers who have been emboldened by the president's overtures in the campaign is just astonishing. And this is an unprecedented situation. The government must use every necessary resource to regain control of the situation. One of the key, ladies and gentlemen, one of the key actions in this direction is the revocation of LI 2462. The president promised he would do this in the campaign. We want to remind him that he must do that. In making this comment, let me quickly commend the Media Coalition Against Galamsey led by Dr. Ken Ashigbe, our brother Erastus Asaridonko, and other civil society organizations that are engaged in ensuring that the fight against Galamsey is brought under control since this government took over and it has taken a turn for the worse. President John Dramani Mahama, using the Galamsey fight in the 2024 campaign, stated he will repeal LI 2462 to end mining in our forest reserves. However, as president, he has gone back on his promise to revoke the legislative instrument and instead has offered to amend parts of the law which takes away the president's power to approve applications for mining in forest reserves. So this is a tokenist approach which does not end mining in our forest reserve, and given the rate at which the NDC operatives are taking over our forest, under John Dramani Mahama, we are likely to lose the vast majority, if not all, of our forest cover. Ladies and gentlemen, amending the instrument will not suffice, considering, as I just said, the rate at which the forest covers or forest reserves are being attacked with armed protection from outside this country. A complete repeal of the law is necessary and is what we must demand to ensure a total ban on mining in our forests. We recall the state of the Galamsey fight under President John Dramani Mahama before he exited office in 2017. It was a total give up. His Minister for Lands and Natural Resources gave up on the fight. This time is very early on. It seems to me as if he just is continuing from where he left off. It appears today in our country that the fight against Galamsey has been given up on. The president is not focused on fighting Galamsey. What we experienced in 2016, or before the president left office, is coming back, as we all can tell. Members of the NDC are visibly emboldened to engage in the legal body because they realize that the president and their party will be lenient on Galamsey because of the promises they made to Galamseyers in the campaign. So we faced a choice, especially in protecting our environment. That is, the president is not interested in fighting corruption, but rather is engaged in persecuting his political opponents. Our environment is being sacrificed, and our democratic rights are under attack. This is what we voted for. But this is one thing that we must all come together and fight. People say elections have consequences, and the consequence of our choice on December 7th is facing us. Already, I get a lot of calls from young people who have been retrenched from employments they have attained legally and legitimately. Just yesterday, an announcement was made as though it was a pride point to say that some 100 people have been let go from the Ghana Post. This is what we voted for. But I know that this is not what Ghanaians were expecting when they made this choice.
We wonder.
As it stands, we must fight, at least one, to ensure that our rights, at barest minimum, our democratic rights, are not completely taken away from us. The rate at which the Attorney General is going, we fear that might happen unless we speak up. So for me and for us, this is not a partisan call. This is a call to protect this Fourth Republic, that all actions of the government must comport with the law, must be in accord with the law. And also the fight to protect and save our environment must be spirited, and the government must commit itself to ensuring that we preserve our environment. As citizens, we cannot sit and feel helpless. We must engage. We cannot be indifferent. Therefore, we urge all Ghanaians to join us in this fight to protect our environment, our water bodies, and our democratic rights for ourselves and for our posterity. Thank you very much for coming. So, me na dom yedamu nyina sise ene ye from mo amobae na asemo a ye de ba ne nyina eye asem mfua mienu pe ene se ye to abai 2024 ye kwoto aba no na NPP wonda so se nke be wini esan se nhihye ya ye se ye de ahotoso beba na policies a ye de ato akwan mu ama se economy no I started say ejina ne na so efi COVID-19 ene Russia Ukraine say ye mo no na ye need that say nka Ghana for my akwenya no a ka betumi ama ahotoso a ye nya ye efi 2017 2018 19 mu nyina no betumi asan de Ghana konda da mu bio but amanesa ama Ghana for to abama NDC aya ya papa John Dramani Mahama odano na efi sabre ya owini ye omuni ye bia no oboye Ghana na so mo fiti se omo ye besi nne no a kire se omo eni in fact before okura meko ho no se ye campaign yirade di ka kire Ghana for se President John Dramani Mahama ye hunida wa ba be ye bi ama na dwuma ya nso edi Magana for Pamon. I didn't tell Pamon no. Bra, Cosi say, yet to Ababa December 7th. One tray at the Fufrobia or Babaye, apart from the Oya, Yampa or Koyan. One card of Fufrobia, and today him. So only plan the beer, or the best is Sabia or Ghana. But here can no Ghana for a take, and I ask a man, as a man to, and no more to my NDC. Enti every say obaye o de nano and every fire Ghana ho se bia bia na o de nano no de info no twa picture no mo ye optics public relations and no mo de governance o mo ye efi abra mo baye be ye sure say we betumi de the start we be so say we no ma sha say so mo ye na say we no ma ka say o mbe ya o onya didi o mo say o mo ye abeboa enti nyoma bielu and the embassy at the tumoning. Now, as I say, Omoni, no mafa adjoining. Moka say campaign no no say corruption. To my fa adwene say oh corruption is the politics. As I say omo ba yi omo ahwe nkrata ni mu a ekote ora nyina sa ora yi yaka say omo ni nyina so e kire omo beji tu mu so omo ni nyina so no ehwehwe mu omo ye nyina am da come attorney general sorry na obey press conference attorney general sorry na obey press conference china obey press conference attorney general so no enye press conference ni media no oye court na se woko na omo se abaidada mu fuo no edi bone aye kata hyehyɛ ene proye bebere a omaka na enumu no na omo so omo evidence but evidence no omo ntumi fa nko court de bia betena media na ye say nipa din bone se waye say ni nyina no ye hu akiri na de akire ne se omafa adwene se court ne de omo nko na say bia omo court ne kura omo nim se evidence a omo ko ade court no ene nyina so se omo court a omedi bim ana say allegations o maya fa nipa ne ho no court befo aso say ampara nipa ne disabone no enti before kura mbako court akoko disanko guo no ombaba media for si abeka cho so osimesi we wieska we dwane kura kote ewo a friend say Senegal ye hwe na ye hu no afa plane akopie London na wasa sheda se oko Dubai eno wasa ne chi akọ London eno wa be pie Ghana ananse se mo kwa e kire se omo se nipa ni din omo kan to Ghana for trimu se nipa ne di bone kura se de akokot but Ghana han ye wo mra sa mra ne kire se nipa bia se nyina ate ya sei obi ababa okọ edu se si aso o sibesi wa fama de e mra ne kire se sa nipa no se wodi kan akasa no nkire se ampara wodi sa bone no e se ode enyinaso ekokot ko kire se ampa de America no mehu no picture ni letter ni bank account ni we say na kire pa asasa ni yakomu ahwe se ampara de o kan ye no kure sa proof no very important ye hunu bebere se nipa etwa asamato nipa se be court no court be hwemu brakwan so no na nipa ne nifo no wasan no wanya na ne fa hu die enti emra no ahyehye se ma obia nya saa se wetwa asamato obi so na se nipa no ye da asam na to no so ara o se obi twa asam to so anasa ban ne po twa asam to so na o kasa no a ese ye susu se unye saa bone no enkosi abra court beka se ampara ya hwemu evidence kire se ampara waye ade no ansa etumi aka se wodi saa bone no na attorney general oye mranim ni a onim se saa ade we e wo constitution aya article 19 a provide say men susu obia say wodi bone until say court beka say wodi bone but as I say onim say ni nsemu a o twato di paso no enye do kore adase oni nyina so sa odi kan e kan to manfo team ama manfo aka so before there ama bokro no osimesi there o bokro no ansa ya hwen kratem enti we a oye se ko na court ko kaso asema o ka nya no kore di pai wonye sa no a na Ghana for adwuma yo munya ebia NPP for the court for akoye kanana na court for the jan nipa no enti agenda and is for asset instead say attend general be court no court na de bia ne kasa de bia ne press conference enti e ka no mahu e mahu akire say de omo ye nie say enye persecution bi na on person omo ye e persecution e your time e huna na NDC for ede se be ya Ghana for ebenya NPP hu tan so wo mo ba ye man be edwuma bia ma wi esika nya no kure na de ye ka ama nyina hu na attorney general atibie ni se NPP ebegyina ho ama emra se emra be edwuma na yen de ye ntia se obi edi bone ewo ye mu na ye de me famra kwan so ye mfa nipa no famra kwan so se de amra kire but me funny panel embeto press conference emma engu ne ho fi emma nipa nsusu se nipa no ya de bone ye ni abra ye hu ne bramu se ampara odi sa bone no sa futuo no na ye pese attorney general otie na odi ye adwuma na eboa ye se be ya amanfo fa hu di a constitution na guarantee no on fa endwetwe from na asem de ka ho a ye pese ye ka ya hu hia pa ni se ye Galamsey ehun sem ye sa se ye nsuo ene ye forest hun sem a ene NDC fi se omo ba ban mu 27 January 7 2025 no ihihyeya ya ye a ye ko enimu na pese ye di sa Galamsey so no atete apansa NDC for anhwe anye sa adwuma no esa say during campaign mo nomine nam Galamsey areas chiro mo so mo de monto maye na ye ba be ma mo kwan ma mo ye adwuma sa audio yi de video mo hu a from 2020 no mo start cancer ansem we and the 2024 no mo to aso ne amanfo e bush cancer ansem we enti wa cancer ansem we a kire dipa na wo kro ya ba we ni election a wo hwe se nipa ne be jai Galamsey no ana enti ene no Galamsey atiate say omo a eye Galamsey ananka first omo suro say aban nipa ba be chi omo ana security for be chi omo no say sia de omo nya kokudro because of madamfo aba mo yonko a mo na hwibom aba na na omo wo bush ekeka so ye beto ama mo beba ni de aka no omo nya aba no omo nya aba ni de obia abeje de chefa joni a ye Galamsey oni ana enye ye NDC 4 a omo hwe so mbe ye no enne no madamfo John Dramani Mahama ne NDC ku amaba no omanya kokuduru a ne omatiesi mu the forest ne nyina kwaye ni mu nyina omagye afa na mu stories de mo media for muni na ebe bo nipa ba ku mienu abaso ene agiremu a omagye se saa adwuma we a omunim Galamsey adwuma a omunim se ebe sei yensuo ne asase ebe sei edaache ema ye ma eba mo nso so de a ye nana mo gya ya ye so ye hwe so no ya hwe so ye ti omo ba omo nya bi ekura fa mbobra ye nua Dr. Kenashigbe ene ye nua Erastus Asare Donko ene civil society organizations a omo di mu akotene se saa Galamsey ebe bra no aso ye da mase na ye gina omodwuma no so aka kira ban se o mu se wa hye so be ma o ma ye Galamsey but eneno yesre no onhwe na omunkuntia Galamsey ye forest ni nyina bebre amabodi wa say okọ bebi biara na Galamsey for na ida say o mako wremu awie ana so mo fa plans o mako wremu ene de abane say o ma import security for militants from Ivory Coast am na bi atwemu na o mo ko o mo kromo na say ne abrase no o mo ni adwuma bia ya in terms of say o ma akonsa akon no mako fa o mo omunim protection and security mo adwuma omo wo tuom krokratuo o forest omo bo Galamsey for mo ban se omo ntu Galamsey enti ene security for kra ekọ ye forest omo suro omo kopio omo so aye ni omo adisi ani na ebi ye bo bi tuo na ebi nso so ye twa bi ye disi kan twetwa bi no mo na we ade a eye ne bresem apart from say essay your forest ne ensase ene ye nsuo no a national security threat say enkoye mu a na say your forest e wo ho no omo ahyem wo no kuretuo a omo de terrorize the national security for na say police for ne soldier for omo ko so omo bo your forest no ban nti e ba ne say omo ahon den kobro security for de no so a na trese your forest no omo say ne duru be enti enne yensuo a ese ye koso nyina ne forester ye take you over ne nyina no e free NDC ye papa John Dramani Mahama ne mre yo a oye ewo sa Galamsey nsem yi ho na dia yesere ne se onye ne se oma ne ni nkwa ho na one ne party for enkasa se Galamsey no eye omunjai na omunjai na in addition so no o share boss e mre bi wo ho a friend no 2462 a pass here makwan say o to me mining war a forest mo no o share bo campaign mu say beyi samra na free ho na samra no etumi yi free ho a ebeboa ama ya bane mining our forest bia mu Ghana ha at least say ebe maye space kakra na etumi a control say ye na e go so ti esre say samra no o ka e say obeyi free ho no onyi free ho e na me no ka say emra no eda ho a ye county from in 21 days no nje na me no ka say e di be some 1 week bi a eko until no time sa emra no e mature na ye implement ya mining in forest no ebe koso a enjai the ebe sisan kakra ni say president no onye nipa obe approve but the approval process no ebe koso ara a kire say nipa be koso amine ye forest no enti Galamsey no ebe ye worse samra no say enye mfiri ho a enti esre say boshe na ye papa John Dramani Mahama share no o medi so na emra na wakwa amende a e twen say in the next 21 days ebe mature na omode aye adwuma onko no nko yi mra nyina efiri ho say be ya mining in our forest no ye be jai say be jai kra because onu bai ne nkrofo a o ma tegu forest ni mo no say jai na enyi sa emra we enfiri ho na ye say onu no oba approve no nko na enyi free ho a process na on be famu akwakoye mining no forest no e no da hostel e na ne nkrofo say o ma wi ata so say on be ye Galamsey no on be fa kwan bia so samra no ho a fa kwan bia so no makwakoye sa Galamsey no nti pam no twam no ye nyi emra ni free ho na embe ye say mining wo forest Ghana ha nyina no ye de esa to so a obia entumi nkonko ye hu obi wo wa na ehu se sa nipa no bu mra so ntumi nka se o be won krata we na me de ye sa ye hu se ho no de ye no go area se ya anya ne sa enche bia no ye forest a ye wo Ghana ha nyina no e be dane Galamsey bia na ye besre se media for mo so mo de ma no be ka ho anomanu an batum na ya make sure say ya papa beti sa message na ya koso aka Ghana tumi a ya ma John Dramani Mahama ne NDC for no enye tumi a ya ton a anya tumi a ya omodia e tumi a wo yen Ghana for enti ya ma omo se on be ye omo yusu sa tumi no se be nyina ye nkogina parliament ye nyina nkogina Jubilee House se mi na meka se oba kofo nkoye ene ye de papa Dramani Mahama kosi ho parliament so ya se bia kosi wo so monye sa decision ye maye nyina eno nkire se si ane de omo pe na so omo ye so omo ye dia ye soma omo so omo nkoye na de omo ye soma omo so omo nkoye no so omo nya ye hu kwan se e be ka akire omo se omo hwe na omo nya de omo ya emwa Ghana no enti asem we e asem ma e se ye ka kire NDC for se de omo ye no ye mfo aso de omo ya ene omo de Galamsey aye party adwuma omo chichema omo chairmans ne omo party for no ye ninje ho ye forest a omo awremu a omo se no no ye ninje ho nti omo nyai na sa tumi no ye wo se ye beka ba se yanka ye be gina ho ama NDC for asay ye nsuo no ma say ye forest nti ye besre say ye message mo make sure say mo be mana ko echiri na maka ama obi ate say be ya nyina ye di ni be ko ho na ya support say the fight against Galamsey no Ghana ye be di so nkunim ama ya protect the environment any ye nsuo da mas me sure say we the question be any hosa okay da nyina
So already you are spending enough time here, so please, this was an information from us to you. Help us in the fight against Galamsey. Thank you very much for coming. At this point, you will remain quietly here, for us I will join you very soon. So be seated. It's raining out there. Don't move. Be seated. You want to pass through the race? You come. You're my good friend. I don't want you to pass through the race. So be comfortable here. I will be here very soon. Thank you very much for coming. And I will put a soft copy of the statement on the platform. So those of you who are not on my platform with you, you can pick from your colleagues. Director, thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation.
Why you want to take me picture? Then let me start.
Wait, the small one.
You finished?
I missed it. Why? I missed it. I'm just going to jump on the microphone now.
They are from NPP 4. Mahama say about Galamsey no. It is a omo kasa for say Galamsey no so mutumi de mutumi hwe una mu de ejai na so that because Galamsey ni dia ha Ghana for the papa so I say o makasa for the kasa na e ba kasa for no just say o mutumi de Ghana for no so mutumi de John Dramani Mahama need to stop this Galamsey because so far as o makasa for they need to stop about this and we are waiting to say just hope and pray say this issue no I'ma give it out to me. This issue no I'ma give it out to me. They will make sure say they would see now why they hurt me. Are they raise them go hit me like this?
No, they hit you.
No, I know they, I just do like this. Wait, your hand hit me. So Deterioration uti dia bafuna mokano dia you know I'll be uploading the full video about that today so that you will hear about it. Don't forget to subscribe, share this video with everybody. This Daily Watch TV. So I'll be giving the full video on the platform so that you will hear about it. This Daily Watch TV, and then very soon I'll be uploading the full video on the platform so that you will see and then hear about it. I'll give you a comment, leave your comment. So after that, then I'll leave you go. Don't forget to subscribe, share the video. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.